Hello there everyone. Hi Bonnie, how are you? Hi Jean. Hi Juliet. I'm just going to check on Facebook. I can't seem to get myself live on Facebook for some reason. It would be great for whoever's watching to share it into the Lisa Horton group for me, the Crafting with Lisa Horton group, please. That would be really helpful if you can do that, because for some reason I don't think I can, and I don't know why. I don't always understand Facebook, to be honest with you. I thought I'd set everything up right, but the button to press for going live isn't working, but it did on Tuesday. Oh, maybe if I put that crafts per title, crafting with musical collection. Maybe if I do that and enter. No, it's not giving me the option. Oh, I don't know. Right, let's leave that. I'm live. I'm live with you. You can hear me. You can see me. So if somebody can share that into the Crafting with Lisa Horton group for me, I'd be really, really thankful. That's brilliant. Who knows what Facebook gets up to? I'm sure we're live somewhere on there. Okay, so thanks for joining me today. I'm using the musical collection. I want to keep saying musical notes, but it's not. It really is just musical, as you can see here. It's an A6 collection. I am live. Oh, Veronica. Hi, Veronica. I am live. Does that mean I'm live on Facebook? I'll check Facebook group, Bonnie, see if anyone has shared it. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Bonnie. You're a star. Okay. As I say, I'm live. I have people watching, so it gives me a chance to get going, which is great. So yes, I'm using the musical notes today. I think this is going to be a really nice one to demo for you, purely because it is so different to anything else that Lisa has done. We know Lisa for her florals. Oops, excuse me. So this is a completely different design for her, but one I hope she still explores and carries on down, as also because I know she's asked a lot of times for designs that would be suitable for the guys, young and old. This is also brilliant for teenagers. It's brilliant for anybody who's into the music scene, and I think depending on the colours that you use, you can make it adaptable to anyone. Now I'm going down the bluer route today. I'm sort of aiming it at the guys. I think I don't struggle too much with guys cards, I must admit. I think I'm sort of tuned into their sort of colourways. If there is such a thing, I don't know, I might be generalising completely. But I actually quite enjoy making cards for the guys, and I always sort of take it as a bit of a challenge as well. So it won't be the last live I do on this one, because I think there are a couple of different colorways you can do this. I've changed up how we can actually mount this onto the card as well. I've had a little play this morning. Now I'm doing completely different colorways to what I'm showing here, but I've had a stencil just to see where the colors go, how it comes together, and just the lay of how the stencils pan out. And I've said this before, every time you get a new stencil, the first time you stencil it won't be your most favourite creation with that stencil. but stencil it first. You do get so familiar the more that you use the stencils, and also you can rely to the packaging that Lisa gives us. That also gives us a colourway as well, and if that's the colourway that you want to start with, just as I say, just to get the feel on the very first time, you'll get that combination. And actually it's pretty much what I went for today, to be honest. I would perhaps have chosen these colours anyway, because that's what I do. This is very pale, but I sort of got my head around where I was going with this. You see, it's an A6 card, and I will actually be creating an A6 card with this. So I have my A6 card. I'll be sort of changing up the front a little bit, but you can see it fits on the front perfectly there. So I will give you a slightly different design on how to, other than just stencil and emboss and then put it onto the front of the card. Obviously we want to sort of change up the design a little bit. So these are the colours I'm using today, and you'll see on the side here that I've put the colours on. I might change my mind, I might bring an extra one in to see how it goes, but I'll probably actually will just stick with these colours. I'm going to have a little go with some flash paste and some explosion powder also, and I've put the colours on the side there. I'm liking this on craft page, but not the group. If you can share that into the group for me, Bonnie, that will be brilliant. Share from the pastry group. Brilliant, you're a star. Thank you. I'll have to look at Facebook and sort of figure out why that wasn't working, but anyway. Also on the side, you'll see the items that I've used there as well. It really is a very simple card as far as products are concerned today. So I have the embossing folder, which is the A6. No die with this one. It literally is just an embossing folder. I say it's just an embossing folder. It is the embossing folder, but no die. Layering stencils, of which I think there was, let me just check, I have the stack of them here. There are 10 stencils in this particular set. And I'm also trying to incorporate as well a couple of the Spellbinders dies. So I'm using this one, which is a stamp and die cutting set, and I'm just using the sentiments. Well, so just using the sentiments. This is the sentiments, and I'll give you a little sneak peek of the colours that I've got there actually. So I've already die cut the smile word, and what I will do, I will stamp the sentiments and die cut them out for you a little bit later on also. But I am also using the stitched edge circle backgrounds. So this set actually has 4 cutting dies. So it has the 2 circles, which one has the stitched edge on it here. Oh, sorry. One has the stitched edge. Then we have the little really thin die, which is a mighty machine actually. That will cut through a couple of layers, but this will actually cut out the these patterned circles from your cardstock. But what I'm using today is just this lattice one, because I looked at this and I thought, how can I sort of change up and zhuzh up the front of the card, make it a bit trendy for teenagers? And I looked at this and I thought that could be the front of the speaker. So I'll show you that a little bit later on. So that's what I'm using. And I've put these don't have the regular Lisa Horton product codes on them, because these are produced and stocked by Spellbinders. So I've put the Spellbinder product codes on them on the side here. So should you want to go and look for them, and I've also listed there, they are Lisa Horton at Spellbinders. So I think Lisa may well get some of these to stock in her shop, but they won't be stocked under her normal product codes. But I've put all the details there, and if you ever have any problems getting hold of them or finding them, stick a message in the group, give us a shout, and we'll help you out there. So hi Andrea, hi Mum, hi Helen, how are you? Oh, Karen as well. Okay, oh good, we've got a few of us joined you actually now. So what I'll do, if I remember, I will pop this slide back up again at the end of the video, but I'll just remove that now so we have the whole screen to to see what we're doing. Okie dokie. Let me put your comments back on. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do first off, I'm going to do things a little bit back to front to how I would normally do it. Now, what I've already done is stenciled the guitar, but just the guitar. And also you can see that I've embossed that as well, because you can see the detail going on there. Now, this guitar is going to go onto the front of the card, and I've stenciled just this one alone because I'm going to fussy cut it out. There is no die to this, but this is such an easy shape to be able to cut out, and it's possibly one of the only shapes on there that is complete enough to be able to isolate and fussy cut and put out. So I've already stenciled this, and say I will go through and stencil it all in a minute, but what I want to do is to put some paste onto this, just to put a few little highlights on, I suppose. Now, to stencil just this on its own, all you do is just you go through your stack of stencils and you purely just stencil the ones with the guitar detail on there. So let me just bring that piece of card in, actually, just so. So this is stencil number 1. Obviously, you can see with the guitar on there. Stencil number 2 doesn't have anything for the guitar, neither does 3. So you pass on these, then you just continue on to use all the details from the guitar, and that's how you can isolate an image from your stencil pack. So just because we have all the stencils with all the detail on every single one, if you do want to isolate any part of the image, it can easily be done, and that goes to for all of the floral stencils as well. It works in exactly the same way. So that's what I've done to stencil my guitar. Actually, I'm just going to move. No, I'm not, because I don't need that. Sorry. Okay, so I've already stenciled this, but now I want to add some paste onto this, just as a few accents. You could do the way that I'm going to do this can be applied to the whole of the design. So if you want to add any accents in paste, whether it be the flash paste or a glitter paste, then you would stencil the whole image first, and then you pick out the stencils which has the part of the design that you want to highlight with your paste. So I have already picked out stencil number 6. So you can see that's got part of the guitar on here. And all I've done is just masked off where the strings are of the guitar, because I just want to put the details of the guitar in paste on there. You don't have to do that. You could do the whole lot. It's entirely up to you. But what I want to do is get this done first, so that can be drying before I add, before I fussy cut the guitar out, and then before I add that to the front of the card. So what we can do, we need to line up our stencils. So I'm just going to keep that on a side there. Go back to the first stencil, because that is the easiest one to use to line up where my stencil is going to go again, because that's the largest aperture for the guitar. So I'm just going to line up stencil number 1. And I'm just going to pop that onto the pegs and check that that is all sitting in place as to where I want it. So that's fine. I'm going to remove the stencil. The card is going to stay in place. You'll notice that when I use my stencils, I sort of use them as like a book. So when I take them from my right hand side, I sort of flip them over as you would do a page, and then put them down on here. That way I know that they always sort of stay in order. Yeah, it just really works for me, and it's a habit I've got into right from day one, and you'll see me doing that on every live. So now I'm just going to flip through the rest of the stencils I'm not using, so I can get to stencil number 6, and I know that those are all in order, because obviously I will need to stencil the whole lot in a moment's time. So when I put this down, we can see that the details of the guitar are there in place. Now what I'm going to do is the special crystal, and I actually used this the other day, But what I want to do this time, yeah, this has got the glittery paste in it as well, which is lovely. So you could either use this or you could have used the, there's a pearl one. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to now use the explosion powder, because what I want really is black detail onto that guitar, which I think will stand out better against that turquoise. So I'm going to use the explosion powder, magic black or magical black. Tiny amount of powder. I don't think I'm going to need much. Tiny amount of powder onto a mixing mat here, and I can add more in a minute. So as you can see from the details here, I don't need too much at all. So I'm going to pick up some of the paste. It might even be too much. So really tiny amounts you can see there. And I'm going to mix that in with the explosion powder. And you can see straight away what that has done is changed the colour of my paste. And that actually is so pretty. That is gorgeous. That's almost purpley. Can you? Oh, you can't see. I've changed my lights about, so hopefully it works for you. Yeah, you can see the lights there. Well, you can't quite see that. Oh, I just catch that there, just there. Oh, you can see the light underneath. Oh, no, it's really tricky. Anyway, if you have these at home, I highly, highly recommend you have a go, because I actually wasn't expecting it to be that pretty. So I've just added a bit more powder, just see if I can get a bit more intensity in the black there, and I'm just mixing that up. And you know how the explosion powders work? They are made up of lots of different colours. Actually, I'm going to need some more paste, and I'm going to get that out with a clean thing first. There we are. You know the intensity of the colours on the explosion powders when you mix them with water? You can actually see those details and those colours come out in this paste as well, which is so clever. That's great. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put this through the stencil, and hopefully I've got enough paste there. I might have to mix a little bit more. So I'm being quite daring today. I'm actually doing something I've never done before. I'm doing this live. So what I actually needed to do is mix a little bit more. So I was a bit too conservative actually, but that's fine. Let's make sure we've got plenty of paste, because what you want to do is make sure you've got plenty of paste to fit through the apertures there. So just picked up a bit more, just mixing that up. That is lovely. Actually, yeah, I've almost, I wasn't expecting it to have that result, I must admit. Yeah, oh, there we go, I've got plenty going on there. So I'm going to put that through the aperture. Actually, I'm not going to worry too much if that goes all over the place, because I know I'm not using the rest of this card. So I can make sure that all the detail on that guitar has been covered. Right, what I will do, let's make sure I clean my palette knife off. Now I do have sparkles everywhere again. Oh dear. Never mind. There's worse things to deal with, isn't there? So I'm just going to clean that off. And then what I shall do in a second, I shall clean my stencil, because obviously I need to use that in a minute too. So as I move that away, look. Look, look, look. Can you see that? You can see that sparkle going on there, and that's really highlighted. That would be some special guitar, wouldn't it, if you actually had that to play with in the band. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that to dry, and I shall fussy cut that out in a bit. So I'm going to put that somewhere I'm not going to put my finger in, because I don't know about you, but I'm terrible when it comes to letting things dry and finding a space where it's not going to be disturbed. So what I will do now, I shall clean this one up in a little bit. Let's put that over there. Clean this up now. See actually just how easy this cleans up, and my cloths are going to need a good clean after this, because there's going to be sparkles everywhere. What you noticed actually, you'll see here that I actually masked off the strings of the guitar. So what I can do now is remove that little bit of tape. And just make sure that it's perfectly clean. That sparkle is. I thought you'd like that sparkle, Helen. That's right up your street, isn't it? Now I'm sparkling everywhere. Look. Oh, you can see it actually on my hand. Focus on that lovely sparkles on the hand there. Yeah, and the fact that that is, I mean, it's genius. The fact that it's a clear, I wouldn't say clear because it is white, but you can add any colour to that and adapt that to your design. And it's a great idea. I would never have thought of doing it before. It's actually adding explosion powders to it as well, so you get that the fun of the dual tones or the multi-tones within the explosion powders actually in the paste. I don't think that's ever been done before, has it? Okay, right, so what I've done, I've cleaned all of that off. I've done my sort of mixed media section part of that now, so that's leaving left to dry, so I can actually get on and stencil the image for you. So I have my piece of card, get my colours ready. So who has some of the pastes? Who managed to get them from Lisa? I think Bonnie said the other day that she's just received hers. I don't know if she's had a chance to play with them just yet. Just move on. Let's dry it. Okay, right. So let's get stenciling, shall we? So this is more of what we're used to seeing. So stencil number 1 of 10. Now I went quite bold with that guitar. I think I might actually use that as the basis to get going, so you can actually see the colour start appearing. So that colour for the guitar that I stenciled here is natural turquoise. So I've got my large brush, the chunky brush, and just the same as I would do with any of the floral stencils, I always work from the edge of the design into the centre. Again, what that does, it creates an easy shadow and contouring, I suppose. And to do that, we work from the stencil material and we get our circular motion. And once we're happy with that, then we start working into the aperture of the design. And that's how you get that airbrush look, and you get a really nice dark shadow around the outside of the design, and you can work into the centre like so. And that's how we get, say, we get some really nice contour in that way, which is then enhanced when we put this through the embossing folder. So I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. There's not a huge amount of space to actually start your circular motion on this side, but it can still be done. It can still be done, just a little bit of care. And you can see I'm actually holding the stencil sort of down in place there. And as we go all the way around. And make sure we've got a nice even look all the way. Make sure we've got plenty up onto the neck of the guitar also. So we can move those pieces in. Now before I move on from the guitar, what I will do is just, I'm going to use Tranquil Waters just to add an extra bit of blend. Now this also has turquoisey tones and it sits really nicely on top of natural turquoise. And what this will do, it will just darken the tone, because some people see turquoise as green, some people see it as blue, don't they? And it's going to be one of those age-long questions that everyone's going to have to agree to differ to, isn't it? I see sort of turquoise as blue, as a green, but I do want to give this more of a bluey tinge, and by adding the Tranquil Waters, just as I'm doing like this, that just warms up the tone, just darkens it, and just makes it, to my eyes, the colour that I want to see it. Again, everyone's eye is different, isn't it? They're both beautiful colours, I must admit, but it's probably useful for you to know, if you're new to Lisa's colours at least, is that Tranquil Waters is a really nice colour to blend on top of natural turquoise as a shading tool. So you can see how that really works well together, like so. So that's the guitar sorted. Now, what you can see here, now this is where this stencil gets a little bit abstract, and this is where you do need to probably become familiar with using this stencil to be happy with colour choices. Now, what we have here is the keyboard. So this is basically the background of the keyboard, and you can see all the detail here that we need to build on top of. So it's advised, really, I would say, particularly say until you're comfortable using this, to go lighter on these colours. And what we have here is also the background of the speaker that's sitting there. So always use Lisa's packaging as your reference. And I think what I might do, now this is where the colours, what should I do? Oh, Hazel has her ideas for me too. Okay, well done, Hazel. Right on cue. Sounds like we've got a delivery actually. Stephen can sort that out for me. No worries. I was just looking for my cloth. Right, I was dithering as to what I was going to do. Right, what I'm going to do is painted eggshell in the background. I want a really light base to start working with, and the painted eggshell is going to be a really nice grey to build on top of. It's a colour that will go with everything else, so it's going to fit into the colour scheme of what I'm trying to achieve. So that, say, if you're unsure about things, sort of go for a grey, go for a nice neutral that matches the colours with everything else, and you can't actually go far wrong with that. So that's stencil number 1. So there's a lot of detail in that already, isn't there? So isn't that colour amazing? I love that. I really, and you can actually see the Tranquil Waters sitting on top of the green, can't you? It works so well. Okay, so this stencil here, stencil number 2, we have headphones going on here. Okay, we have a speaker going on here and part of this keyboard. So this again, we're really just working at the base level of all of these shapes. So it's a good idea to work with a simple base colour at this stage. I would say you can introduce your colour, your theme colour, into these items later on, because there will be a lot of detail added on top of these particular shapes. That's the way I like to look and sort of tackle all of Lisa's stencils. Actually, I take that same thought process to even the floral designs, and particularly it stands me in good stead, especially when we have the new stencils come through and I'm using them for the first time. So I'm just going to go through all with the painted eggshell to create a really nice base going on there. And you know what, when you've got the time to stencil yourself, not necessarily when you've got people watching you, you can go back and add and change the colour. If you don't want to do a second project, or you think that you can just sort of dip in, you needed a little bit more colour, or that needs to be a different contrast, swap and change your stencils once you've sort of got through all of your projects. That is a really good method, a really good sort of way to tackle these images also. So we see here we're coming back onto this stencil, onto this speaker here, so we can start introducing some more of the themed colour. So I think what I might do is come in with the Tranquil Waters, just gently. So this will change this speaker from a grey to a blue. And I'm going to come in with a smaller brush. I'm just going to add a bit of shading, so because where it's sitting against the guitar stem or the guitar neck here, it's going to be a little bit more shade, so I'm going to add a little bit more colour there. Okay, so you can see here, so it's going to be slightly darker. Now I'm still not going too dark at this, because if you look, you still have, oh, you can't see that, there you go. You can still see that we have a lot of detail to sit on top of this, so I'm not going to go so dark that I can't put any more detail on there. We have the other earpiece to this headphone here, and I think what I might do, I'm just going to go slightly darker with a painted eggshell on that one to keep it in tone with the other part of the headphone that I've already done. So I'm going to go slightly darker because it's the inside, so there's a bit of shadow at play, I suppose. And I think what I've done now then is set the colour for those headphones. So that gives me the theme of that image to work with. Now I've got the keyboard sitting here and the keys. Now obviously piano keys are white, and as best that I can, I'm going to try and keep that theme as far as I can. So can you see there, what I've picked out is Lisa's opaque white. It's a pigment ink, it's slow drying, but it's brilliant at layering over colours. So although the colour that I'm stenciling onto is really light, this is going to make some impact, but not a huge amount. Probably not enough for you to notice on camera, but it is going to be there. And what it will do for me is just allow me to keep those keyboard keys white. I'm not quite radical enough at this stage to change the colour of those, but we have a white ink. Let's make the most of it. Okay, so it's unlikely that you're going to see much difference in those keys. I can actually see it sitting there, and you will do. So it's really faint, but I know that I've stenciled the area. Now these bits here, these are wires. It's that curly wire that we used to know from those phones that were attached to the wall. So what shall I do for that? What shall I do? I think I'm going to stay quite sensible, I suppose. I'm going to use inclement weather, so it's going to go greyish. Okay, because I think I actually want the instruments and things to be picked out in a bright colour. So I'm going to stick with grey. So I'm using actually inclement weather as a grey today. You can use cobblestones, that's a nice way to do it, but this inclement weather, it's not used anywhere near as enough, so it's nice if you have this and you bought Lisa's inks as a collection, you bought collection 3, I think this is the collection 3, you'll have this, so it's nice for you to actually see this in action as well. It's a really nice grey actually. It's a real blue grey. There's no other tones in it at all. So I'm not going to go too dark because, as I say, I am going to layer extra colour on top of this. And there's a little piece there which I haven't stenciled. I think it's just a little part of the design, so I'm just going to add that in grey. See, you can see how this is coming together. So we want stencil number 4. Obviously, this is explanatory. We've got details on the guitar. We have the headphone plug, which is the wire that I've just stenciled, is attached to. We have a couple of keyboards here. So this is the shadow between the keyboards. So I think with that, we can afford to go darker. And that will accentuate the lightness between the keys, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to go too dark, but I will use that grey. Now, when I think back to the design team samples, I can't remember who done it. For some reason, it's Donna's popping into my head, but she done a black and pink with yellow. I mean, it was a fabulous design. So, as I say, once you get familiar with your stencils, then you can go wild with the colours and create really, really jazzy, sort of trendy looking ones. So that black and pink one really sticks out. I do remember that. So I think what I'll do now, I'm going to come in with Juicy Pineapple. This is going to be quite out there. And I'm going to do that headphone plug with the yellow. And that's going to add a real nice pop of colour. And because yellow and blue and green will work together, that is going to be a really nice combination. So I'm just looking here. Here we have a speaker element. It's the drum of the speaker. So I think what I might do, I'm going to keep that neutral and I'm going to use Straw Hat for that. And that will remain neutral, but it will come alive once I've built the speaker up around the rest of this. So we also have the speaker going on here, and I think what I can do is add some more tranquil waters to this. Let's stick with that theme and make that really quite bold in there. So I'm going to just add some more shadow, really, just sort of more ink towards the base of that, so that appears darker, and the same with this top bit as well, like so. What haven't we done? I think what I'm going to do, we have the details of the guitar here, and I'm just looking at what I've done on the other guitar for the front of the card. I'm using Inclement Weather. The Inclement Weather is can be a really light grey, as you can see that I've used elsewhere, but it sits on top of this really sort of bold turquoise colour also. So because when you layer it, it layers really quite dark, and that works really nicely. It doesn't matter if you come into the little bit of this speaker bit here actually, because that will also just add to that shadow effect, I think. Okay, you see how this is working, sort of coming together? We're getting there, we are. So also here we have some more details of the guitar. I think what I might do, I'm going to put these little ones here in the Inclement Weather. And I'm just going to see if Juicy Pineapple sits on top of, yeah, it does actually. So I'm going to put that little lever that sits on the front of an electric guitar in Juicy Pineapple. And then I'm going to do the rest of these little pin details in the Inclement Weather again. Oh, stuck together. There's my labelling. Oh dear, what's happened there? Pull those apart. There we go. Stick that down. Let's use the smaller one. Actually, that would work really well. So I can't remember what they call that lever. I can actually play the guitar. It's a little fact for you. That would never have come out, would it, if I hadn't been stenciling this? I can play the acoustic guitar, but I can't. I've never played an electric guitar. It's been a while actually since I played the acoustic as well, to be fair, but occasionally I do get it out and see what I can still remember. There's a few little tunes actually that are my go-tos. Ones that are from my exam days, so when I've done a couple of exams on the guitar, and a couple of ones that I sort of like folk songs that I remembered from school, that I got taught at school, so I can still create a recognisable tune. So it's not as often these days as as it used to be. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the keys to the keyboard. Now, looking at the design, you can see that there are two elements to these smaller keys, the black keys on the keyboard. And the way that the stencils generally work is the first one down would be the largest, which leads me to believe that I will be layering more colour on top of it. So what I will do, I shall lay down a pale layer of inclement weather, because I know that I will be adding more detail on top of that. And what we have here also is another element of the speaker. So I'm going to use, again, I'm going to use straw hat. Okay, so I'm going to make sure it's a really pale colour, so I can come in quite dark on that. But then what I'm going to do, while I've got the inclement weather in my hand, I'm just going to add some shadow onto that. So it will change the straw hat, but it adds sort of shadow onto that as well. Now we have this section here, which is this middle part of the microphone. So we could really go to town and we can make that match the guitar, I think. So let's, you know, I really do want to make sure we keep this design fun. So we do need to add our pops of colour in as well, I think. So I'm using the natural turquoise. I'm going quite dark on that. And then also, I think I will add some tranquil waters just at the edges, just for that shading element as well, the same way as we've done on the guitar. Okay, so let's pull that away. I do like it with this particular design that, say, the more that you go on, it starts creating the image a lot better. And I think what I might do, I might go in and make this this speaker a lot darker, because that's all turning out to be quite light at the moment. And to say, what I wanted to do is just keep the energy up and keep this really, really fun. So tranquil water. Okay, so inclement weather again. I'm using that on that curly coil with a speaker in the centre there. So it is quite an involved stencil, really. It's not one that you should be worried about, but I can understand why initially you'd get this home and you perhaps wasn't quite sure how to tackle it. So hopefully, now that I've actually gone through this and hopefully spoken through this for you, it sort of demystifies this stencil and say, honestly, just give it a go. So what I've done, I've just created that coil there. I'm going to check that it's working in the way that I want it to work. So that coil is working, which is fine. We've got the headphones going on here and the keyboard. So don't ever worry about moving the stencils, and just checking that you are sort of going off in the right direction. Right, we have our headphones going on here, so I think we'll add some more colour into that with our tranquil waters. I think we'll add some colour into here, inject a bit of life into there. So this is the top of the headphone. And then we have the earpiece of the headphone here, and also the earpiece on the other side sitting in there. So that is going to brighten up that section and add our colour. Now we have this section here, which is the top of the speaker. Yeah, I think I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that. And this is where the details of the speaker are sitting there. So I think I will continue with the blue, the tranquil waters on these areas. We've got the keys of the keyboard here, so I'm definitely going blue with that. I'm going to create a little bit of fun on there. And there's, oh, hazel seed. Okay, there we go. Oh, and we have the details on the speaker there. So let's just have a look how we're going. Now this is the line work on the speaker. I think what I might do, yeah, why not go blue? That blue's working for me, I think. What do you reckon? So I'm not going to go too dark on that, but it's going to add some texture going on into there. Okay. So we're on stencil number 7. Right, we have the keyboard going on there. So really, I want to keep those keys white, I think. So I think what I might do, I'll just come in with a small brush, a bit of inclement weather, and I'm just going to go round the edge. So the tops of the keys are going to be grey, the bottom of the keys are going to be grey, and what's left in the middle will be white. So I think by adding this grey, is creating an element of shadow, which will in turn hopefully trick your eye into thinking that the rest of the image is white. Does that make sense? So the bottom of the keys, or the underside of the keys here, actually I'm going to do in grey also. And it's a bit easier to control with a small brush. So I'm not going to add too much colour. And I think what I might do, just come down and separate those like that. Now, as I say, I'm pretty sure it's Donna. Apologies if it was another design team member, but I think what Donna might have done was created these keys in a pink. I'm sure it was a hot pink. So let me just look. Oh yeah, that's worked really. Oh, that's worked really well. Oh, the screensaver's come on. There we are. Yeah, yeah, that's worked really well. Actually, I like that. So we have the keyboard sitting up here as well, and I think I might do the same thing up here also. Right. So a bit of shading at the top of the keys, and I think what I might do, the bigger brush, okay, try and get through this a bit quicker. So I'm conscious that this actually is quite a time-consuming stencil, but I think it's worth definitely worth me going through this to give you the confidence to actually have a go yourself. So what I'm doing is just adding the shading underneath. There we go. And that's going to make those white keys hopefully really pop out. Okay, let's make sure that I've got the detail for the rest of the stencil. Okay, so we have a bit of detail going on here with our headphones. So I used the tranquil waters on the rest of it, so I shall add the tranquil waters to that now. Okay, so yeah, see that's really vibrant in the background there. We've got a keyboard going through there. Right, we have our microphone. Now I think what I might do, just to keep a nice balance of colour going on, I'm going to use a natural turquoise and for this microphone, and initially I'm just going to do a really light layer, okay, just so as we get that image built in. And I'll just show you there that that's coloured in, and then I can start coming in darker towards the side and actually adding that shading as we go. So, and instead of circular motions this time, I'm actually just using straight strokes from the stencil material into the aperture of the microphone there. Now we've got the keys of that keyboard, so I'm going to come in with inclement weather and have what would be the black keys of the keyboard. And then what I'm going to do is pick up a bit more of the natural turquoise, and then I'm going to use some of that inclement weather just as shadow, and again just sort of stroke and swipe that into the microphone. So again, it's going to add some more shadow coming in that way. Let's add a bit more there just to make sure that that's balanced on both sides. So we have, what else do we have going on here? That is part of microphone headphones there, which we haven't done the rest of yet, but I'm keeping headphones as the tranquil waters. So that's what I'm going to add onto that section there. And we also have some extra detail on these headphones, so I'm going to come in with the tranquil waters there also. So I know I've already gone over that with the blue, but by adding more colour, you're just only darkening what is underneath, so you get that tonal effect of the colour, which is a really nice way to work with Lisa's inks. They layer up so well. Okay, so now we have the detail on the guitar. All my work in just now. And I think, what did I do for that? I think I'm going to use the inclement weather for that, actually. So I'm going to put the detail on the guitar. Now remember, some of this detail is what I actually used the paste for, which is going to appear onto the front of the card. So we're adding the strings to the guitar. I'm going to come in with a little bit of shading into the centre of that speaker there. Okay, so make sure we get a nice even layer of that grey up down there, because we don't want the strings to appear broken. So I'm going to come into the keyboard there actually, and create the buttons to be a little bit darker, and just the top of the keys will be darker also. Okay, is this all making sense and it's coming together now? So there's a lot going on this stencil, but just break it down into the details and you'll be absolutely fine. So we have a microphone going on. So while I've got inclement weather in my hand, I'm going to add some dark detail to the base of the microphone, like so, and then come in with the natural turquoise for the top. So we do have a bit of interest going on there. Okay, like so. And then we have the centre of the speaker, so that's definitely with inclement weather. We have the headphones appearing here. So these are the headphones just here that are first making their appearance, and I think to balance the whole lot I'm going to shade them in the way that I did the guitar, because they're on this side, and again we want to add a lot of colour into this. We want to keep this sort of fun and vibrant, and I think especially with the way that I use colour, I need to be conscious that it doesn't always work out to be very pale. So I'm going to come in really dark on this layer. So most of this layer actually I'm using the natural turquoise on. If you wanted to just go with one colour per stencil layer, that would work also, because if you look at Lisa's packaging, that's exactly how these have been designed. So I'm going to go with tranquil waters down here. But I'm hoping what I've been able to do is just sort of demystify this stencil for you to really give it a go. There is a lot going on, but if you just stick to a set of colours, you don't need to add too many colours even into the mix. I'm pretty much using just 4 colours here, which does make the whole process a lot simpler. If you, I mean, you could get away with perhaps 3 main colours maybe, and a couple of accent ones. But another way to look at this is to not complicate and confuse yourself too much by using too many colours. So I'm just looking at the details that we've got here. We have the keys on the keyboard again, which I'm trying to keep black, so I'm going to keep some sort of flow with all of the elements going on. So let me just see what we've got going on here. Those areas aren't in the thing, so I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow on those ones with a little bit of grey, I think. So we'll take this away. You can see now that we've balanced out the whole image by adding the green at the top there. So we can add some more detail to our headphones here by using the tranquil waters over the natural turquoise. Again, that's going to give us the same sort of colour palette as the guitar as we had here. Some details on there. And then we have the keyboard keys, which again keep in black to make that instrument recognisable. And they're already sitting on a base of grey, so we'll just make this layer a lot darker with the inclement weather, the grey, then that would be a really nice tonal effect. And we have our microphone stand, which I'm going to use the inclement weather again, and that will just frame that turquoise microphone perfectly, I think. There's not too many other details going on there. That is the last stencil. So we can see how that's really come together actually. And by keeping the same colour theme for all of the keyboards going through, it gives your eye that sort of sense of a theme working through and makes sense of the pattern. I've balanced out the main bold colour of the guitar on this side with the colour of the headphones on this side. And also we've got the microphone and the speaker leading us through that as well. So hopefully you can really see how that sort of image really builds. So I think I'm just going to put the lids on here now so I don't get anything too dirty. Okay, there we are. So are you? There we are. I'm glad to see you're all sticking with us. Say it's such a detailed stencil, but really don't let it put you off. It's such fun to actually see this build. It really is. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to trim this down to size, and then we can emboss it. And again, by embossing, we've got a whole new level of detail to be added to this. So I'm going to trim this quite close actually, because I know this is going to be sitting into an A6 card. So I really want to, I don't need too much of a border around the outside. So I'm going to trim this quite close to the design. And that in itself actually just sort of concentrates your view, doesn't it? Once it's cut down to size, again, I think the whole image comes together. And again, that will also be enhanced when I mount this onto a colour as well. So let me find the embossing folder. Now there's only one way to emboss this one, which makes lining up this image into the folder a lot simpler. But again, just take your time a little bit with that. Make sure everything is in place. I'm just going to bear with me 2 ticks. Okie doke. It's amazing how different it looks in different colours, doesn't it? I mean, you're really subtle there, which is a really nice effect as well. That would a sentiment on top of that and onto a grey card would be just perfect as well. So although I've done this bolder today, and a lot of people do like using bold colours, if you do like more subtle colours like I would normally lean towards, that I think is just as beautiful as well. So if we take this out now, we have a whole different level of detail going on here with the embossing. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. I'll just turn it over. You can see that it's embossed. Okay. But actually, the more that you look at this now, the more all of the details really jump out at you, don't they? So if I just show you, if I put, that's not big enough. If I put this paler one onto the card, again, straight away, I think it brings out all the other colours there. So you can have something really subtle. But then equally, it works when we put a dark one on the border also. So I'm just going to leave that sitting there. Before I get to the card, I'm going to come back to our guitar that we've got at the front here. So you can see now the colours are very similar. So now the paste has dried, actually, certainly dried plenty enough to cut out. And how long was I going for there? It was probably a good 40-50 minutes actually, wasn't it? I've done a lot of speaking through that stenciling for you there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to fussy cut this guitar now. Let's take away the majority of that. Now, when you do your fussy cutting, you will probably use smaller scissors. But you can see actually it's a really nice shape to cut out. It really isn't tricky in the slightest. We'll just follow that all the way up. And we'll go there. And so I could have possibly have done this ahead of time, but sometimes it's easy to say, oh, you can do this and oh, you can do that, but it really doesn't always give you the confidence to give it a go. So when you actually see this done in real time, you'll see that it is actually as straightforward as we sometimes like to tell you it is. And I think that doing these videos and things for you is all about giving you the confidence to give things a go. And we also got to realise that sometimes you're new to the craft, new to Lisa Horton, new to perhaps this type of fussy cutting or embossing. So yeah, hopefully there'll be all sorts of people watching. So there we are. We've fussy cut our guitar, and can you see? She'll show you in a second. We really have that sparkly detail on the guitar coming out there. It's really pretty. It would work as a main image as well, of course. Right, so we have our elements. Now, as I said, I've used some of these Spellbinders kits to use as details on this card. So I have used the Smile set. So we have 3 dies for our sentiments that all layer nicely together. I've had a word with my glue. It's working. If you watched me on Tuesday, you would have seen that I would have. Me and glue we weren't on talking terms. It just wasn't working for me, so I've sorted that out. So I can actually layer these sentiments for you today. So I need my tweezers to put this. So we have the 3 dies that create the 3 layers of this sentiment. Okay, my screen's frozen. I'm hoping that you are still with me. So I shall continue working on. So we have a lovely sentiment there. Now, as I said, I've taken an A6 card. Okay, we're still working. Yeah, I've taken an A6 card, and then from the other Spellbinder set here, as I say, I've used this lattice work, and I've just die cut the lattice twice on the front of an A6 card, and I've done that from the card blank and also a piece of layering card, and I've die cut through the 2 layers at the same time, so I can layer both of these on together. I couldn't decide if I wanted to die cut it once or die cut it twice. But I went with the twice, and I can lay those on top of each other so both apertures work alongside each other. I've cut myself a piece of cardstock, matching cardstock, that I can layer onto the inside of the card also. Like so. So we can layer that up. There we are. So we have our card blank ready to go. Now my thinking of this is like the grill that you have on the front of speakers, isn't it? So what I wanted to do was just tease what was on the inside of the card, so I can layer my embossed image on the inside of the card here. So it's not going to be seen straight away. But what we can do on the front of the card, we can just tease the theme of the card by adding the guitar on the front. Okay, which fits perfectly into the corner because obviously we've we've fussy cut that from the embossing folder and our image, so that will sit perfectly in the corner, and the dimensions work brilliantly because we are creating an A6 card. Okay, so that works there. Then we have our sentiment that we can have sitting in the middle. So we can just use our glue to add all of that on, and all the colours are working perfectly nice, perfectly well together, and it's alluding to what is on the inside of the card here. Now what I will do, again, I shall bring this set back in, the Smile set. We do have a set of stamps, and we have a just one die that will cut all the stamps out all in one go. And what I want to do is to stamp these onto a piece of yellow cardstock. Now I'm using textured cardstock. Now the trick to use this, if you want to have the texture behind anything that you stamp, obviously the texture side is far too textured. You'll struggle to get a nice clean stamp, but turn it over. You still get an element of the texture appearing, but it's much smoother for you to stamp onto. So I've taken my stamps. Now I'm stamping these straight with a stamping block because I can get that done quicker. Obviously, if you're happier with a platform, that will be the way to go. So you can ink up your sentiments, stamp onto your cardstock, all of them all at once. So at this stage you don't need to make the choice, and what you will do, you stamp them all, die cut them all out, and then what you don't use you can keep in an envelope and go back to. Now I've already pre-measured this. Unfortunately this can be die cut on your small desktop machine. So we take our die, we line that up to what we've just stamped, and we can die cut all of those all in one fell swoop. So Now, I'm aware that I've kept you all a little bit longer than I would normally, so thank you so much for those of you that have stayed. I appreciate that many of you might have just had to make a dash for the school run. As you know, this will be available on YouTube for you to catch up on. Now, I can just pop those out of there. So I have these sentiments to use at a later date, but also now I can choose which of these I want to have on the front of the card. So I think I'm going to use the It's Your Birthday. Now this could either go on the inside, which I think would be really nice. You could put that there. You can hide that behind the smile and open it up from the inside. I think I will definitely just put this on the front for now. There's my glue. And I'm just going to layer that just under the smile there like that. Just hold that in place just for a second. So we have these sentiments ready for another day. There we are. So there we are, we have today's card. As I say, apologies if it's quite a long-winded one, but I think it's definitely worth talking through this stencil for you. With the musical note stencil, I say something completely different from Lisa, but hopefully one that you will love, and I'm sure she'll now be encouraged to create more of this style for us as well. Thanks for joining me today. It's a really trendy card, I think, that one. So very different to what we'd normally use, and managed to incorporate the Spellbinders dies in that also. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. You set aside a Tuesday and a Thursday to watch me. That's brilliant. I really love that you come and join me as well. But as say, if you manage to rewatch this back on YouTube, you can watch in chunks, or just go to the bits that are for reference if you're managing to craft along with me. So I shall leave that with you there today. Again, thanks so much for joining me. Goodness, it's Friday tomorrow, so that means Lisa's on a live. So don't forget that. I'm not quite sure what she's got planned for us, but it's always worth tuning in for some chats and a laugh. And I think she went off on a tangent with her air fryers last week, so who knows what we'll get. But thanks so much for your company this week, and I shall see you all again next week. Take care.